And that looks like me. And that means it's 2 o'clock Central Daylight Saving Time, singular. And it's another Friday. Yay, man. I don't know. I don't live for Fridays, but I do live for this show. This was a weird Friday for me. I'm not usually very productive on Fridays. There's always last minute prep and getting ready for this, but I had this project on my plate at work and thought I was caught up, and then I got another plate full, and I have been killing myself over the last 3 days to get it going, and I figured out what's wrong with what I'm doing, and now I've been working on workarounds, and I think I've got that kind of nailed down. With a little luck, I will crank out 4 of the 23 projects that I have left. These 4 are special. I was holding them off to the end, but it was such a nice techno challenge. Excuse me. I am much better, by the way. My voice and coughing and all that nonsense is better. As usual, just before I started the show, I took a sip and inhaled. I'm awake. Well, there's truth to that. Wednesday, I sure wasn't. We were over at Mike's on Wednesday, myself and Bilgener, and Mike, and I had gotten up around it's not about when you get up, it's about when you went to bed. So I went to bed around midnight or 1, got up at 4, took the missus to the airport, and then stayed up and worked until noon or so. And then at noon, I headed down to Mike's and worked there for a while, did the show, worked there for a while, came back and sat down on the sofa. Next thing I know, I woke up and it was dark and said, well, not much point in doing anything else. I'm just heading off to bed. So I did, and got a nice long sleep and caught up. So I beg your pardon. Well, anyway, it is Friday. It's Pi Day Friday. And I have some thoughts on today. Why do they always send back channel notes right when the show starts, right in the middle of the show? During the show, the whole back channel should be shut off unless they're, anyways. What do I have here? That's not the document. This. Yeah, there it is. No, it's not. There, right there. So it is Friday. It's September 30th. And that's the last day of September, right? 30 days half September and all that good stuff. And I was thinking about that earlier this week, knowing that today would be the last day of the month and what's coming up. And this morning I codified it. And I said, well, my goodness, besides the fact that we have exactly and precisely 3 months left in the year, oh, I didn't even codify this one. There are 20 days left in the life of the 10OX A+ exams. So now is not the time to start unless you have significant experience and you're just looking to bone up on with products like the total, what's the back of Passport, which is a just the facts book to tighten up on the objectives. We got a really good one, but this is not the time to start the first of the 2 video courses and the 1,400-page book. However, if you're getting close, this is definitely the time to do that kind of final boning up and schedule the exams and schedule them, a week or so before the 20th. So if anything should go wrong, nothing will, of course. Everybody here is going to ace it. Then you got another chance. Other countdown days, 31 days until Halloween. I started setting the setup about a week ago or so. Some of you saw it when I filled in for Mike on Monday. I'm not going to get any more elaborate than this. In fact, this is going to come down in a few weeks to be replaced by a much more elaborate and totally unrelated Halloween stuff. I had to do some outside stuff last night. And while I was at it, I started getting out stakes and staking them in the ground for where things are going to go. And I love decorating for Halloween. Not my favorite holiday in the world, but I really like it. Okay, so 31 days till Halloween, 20 days until A+ 10OX expires, 55 days in the US until Thanksgiving. And then for those of you who are into it, there for 56 days. I just thought about this for the big shopping day after Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, for those of you international, is always celebrated on the last Thursday of November in the States. And then here we go, 86 days until Christmas. Oh, and I wrote this down. I wrote it down on another document that you guys have and I don't have. Yeah, what is it? I figure 5 days after that or so, 91 days until New Year's, right? I think it's 91. Not looking it up, just. So we're here today on the last day of September, and I am David Rush. I'm the senior instructor at Total Seminars, and this is an Ask Me Anything. Since I am Dave Rush and it's an Ask Me Anything, we put them together, you get drama. We get together every Friday, 2 o'clock Central Time, daylight or standard, whatever it happens to be. It's always 2 o'clock for me. And hang out for a couple of hours. We answer questions. We talk about technology in general and news of the day, and then do that for about an hour. Hold a contest, do some other stuff. And then at the beginning of the second hour, we start a project. Sometimes those projects are tightly related to CompTIA exam objectives of one certification or another. Sometimes they're peripherally related, and sometimes they're just raw fun. So today I'm going to take one that's directly related, and I'm going to twist it a little bit into examples that CompTIA doesn't have in mind. I'll tie it all together in a bow at the end, and we'll see how we can make that work. If you're tracking, I think this is show number 111, but I'm not sure. I have to check phones because people are. All right, that's funny back channel stuff. There's been yet another announcement out of the Wi-Fi consortium, not Wi-Fi, USB. If you haven't figured it out, USB version naming is a nightmare. Oh man, they are just awful. And super speed and hyper super duper speed and extreme speed and power plus and power extra. And so somebody posted the latest change in their approach to naming. So I made my usual snarky comment of something or other, and somebody just posted and said that I forgot to add the plus, which is funny. It comes from a funny guy back there. One more thing. We do AMAs 3 times a week. Mike Myers does 2 AMAs a week on Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. Does them for an hour. And then, of course, I do this drama on Friday. Mike's are general technology, tightly focused, typically toward CompTIA topics, sometimes much deeper than CompTIA goes. Sometimes it's just general Q&A, things like that. Sometimes we'll bring in a special guest who can talk tech or talk CompTIA or anything in between. He had Bilgener on 2 days ago. Hope you got a chance to see that. She didn't spend a lot of time on the air, but she's going to become a very, very important part of Mike's online presentation. She is broadly skilled. How's that? Not just in social media, but in SOC operations and promotions and things like that. And she's kind of taken Mike under her wing, or vice versa. Mike has gone under her wing and said, make me a more prominent figure on social media. And expect lots of new interesting things coming out about that. Reading notes. All right, let's see who has deigned to join us. It's a good start. So Tullowit, as ever and always, arrives a half an hour before show start. Tullowit, I read your Discord message that you sent to me at my time, 2:40 a.m. I was long in bed for a change. And I think I posted a follow-up to say Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, but haven't heard back. So obviously whatever it was, it's passed. But if not, if there's something interesting, I'm still just dying of curiosity why somebody would send a message at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I will, I'll join up on Discord right after the show for a few minutes, and hopefully you can tell me what was on the grand emergency. Patricia Grace is here online. So she has electricity, being a Floridian. I know she wasn't in the direct path of it, but it looked like she would have gotten some of the Atlantic side storm surge. So pleased that you are up and about and have electricity. And I take that to mean you're probably dry as well. Techie Tommy's here. Greetings, Techie Tommy. Well, now, wait a minute. I muted. Oh, that's right. I muted all of the Discord servers, but it doesn't mute my DMs. So I just heard a DM. I'm not going to go look right now, maybe during the contest or something. I'm a professional. I'm here to focus on you, all of you. Techie Tommy has just scheduled A+ exams for the 4th and again for the 18th. All right. That's great. And gives you a little breather, and you can reschedule one in less than 24 hours if you need to. So outstanding. Best of luck. Can't wait to hear back. Right. Keep us posted, says Patricia Grace on there. TD Washington, hello to you too. Ooh, super scold. I see lots of action going on down there. Blue Lantern. My 90-year-old neighbor had a printer jam. He called HP, and they tried to sell him $1,000 antivirus protection and told him how he may have been hacked. Jiminy Christmas. Oh, that's horrific. That is just horrific. I don't know where to begin other than sounds like a field trip and a baseball bat. Anyone happens to be wondering, says Techie Tommy, my profile pic is a plate of bacon and sausage. You know, I don't look at these. I just look at names. And so I'm looking at that, and I can see why you would want to explain that. Patricia Grace, my friend had a printer, also HP, and tech support there also told her she had a virus. She called me over. The printer just wasn't connected to her Wi-Fi network. I am meeting with a buddy of mine who works at HP right after the show tonight for a thing. It has nothing to do with the folks that do that, but I'll share the stories. You may get a kick, and who knows. Blue Lantern, HP and Microsoft customer service are worse than used car salesmen or Congress people. Abu Bakr Ahaj, my friend. Nice to see you. I'm brain farting. I was going to do a greeting in Arabic, but all I'm coming up with is shukran, which is thank you. So sorry about that. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. Maybe I do need a little bit more sleep. Techie Tommy, details coming in now. Okay. I should have network check sometime. So we tried to connect with Network Chuck to get him on with Mike's show. It's a more appropriate match, and a lot of hit or miss conversations happened, and the meetup didn't happen. Now Mike has asked me to kind of pick up a larger role in helping him schedule guests and events and things like that. So I'll do another reach out to Network Chuck. We would very much like to have him. He's not the best fit for my show, but I would, so we can find something. We can talk about networking stuff like turning a Raspberry Pi into a router with OpenWRT or something like that. He might have some insights there. Okay, I'll take that as marching orders. In fact, I have the memory of a gnat. So let's save that and put that right here in the bottom of some page. This is a good page to put it on. Thank you, Techie Tommy. Good suggestion. You is done. I didn't ask. I assume that I'm audible. Patricia never lost power. Thanks be to God. Co-workers and others didn't fare so well. Coast to the coast and inland waterways are being flooded pretty badly. I just got a note from a friend of friends. How's that? So I have friends over in New Orleans, which is about a 5-hour drive from here, with whom I went to high school, and we all have a number of classmates that are in Florida. She keeps much closer tabs on them than I do. So I kicked her off a note a little bit ago. This is any word from our classmates, and she gave me reports on everybody, including one who reports that there's now a new yacht in his yard. It's like, woohoo, free boat. Toluit, talking to Patricia Grace. Yep, good to hear. I was going to ask Toluit, so you got family over there. Still keeping them on the prayer list. No one's worse than Congress people. And yeah, we all love Network Chuck. He's an amazing guy. All right, that catches me up on commentary for the moment. We got a good start on people beginning to join up here. Going back to my notes. Okay, so this is an Ask Me Anything. And at least for the first hour or so, we take on any questions, any topics. I'm best with CompTIA stuff and Linux and Raspberry Pi, and tie those all together, and you really got my network neighborhood. Network Dave. No, I wouldn't steal Chuck's moniker. Man, that's good tea. It's been sitting in the fridge for 2 weeks, just steeping and steeping and steeping. You could stand a fork up in it. Anyway, so the easiest, bestest way to communicate with me is live, interactively, here on the chat. If you're watching me live interactively here on the chat, but if you're not, there are certainly other ways. And I encourage you to contact me with questions, comments, feedback on the show, whatever makes you happy. Where'd it go? There they are. And you can do that by sending me an email. Excuse me. Oops, don't click stop video. Things would be bad. So let's get all of the share fun stuff out of the way. So if you want to contact me outside the realm of live YouTube chat, you're certainly welcome to do so. Catch me at my work email, daver@totalsum.com, or my personal email, drushtx@yahoo.com. I'll post this stuff on the chat feed in a moment, so you can just copy paste it. If I'm online, I am Blood Rush TX Gaming. And that's good. I'll put up my LinkedIn stuff. I operate a web server 3 days a week, 24 hours a day, and then on demand for those non-3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I fire it up early first thing in the morning and kill it on Sunday night. It's pirsquare.zapto.org. What's there, Dave? I'm glad you asked. Everybody here live knows this, but people, I've got like 1,000 people a week ago watching the archive. So there's lots of people for whom this is new. Whenever I make a show, I create a lot of documents, a big, I don't know, anywhere from 15 to 25 page outline, pretty much everything that I say, do, and step by step. There are slides and pictures and PDFs and lots of goodies. And so every week when I do those, I combine them all up into a little zip file and make them downloadable at pirsquare.zapto.org. So you could get every one of the documents I've ever created to do any show since the beginning of this show series more than 2 years ago now. Yay. I think that's right. Yeah. And you are most encouraged to check on. There's always one or two other interesting things there. Do this guy every week. We offer a special just for people who watch the AMAs, Mike's AMAs and my AMAs. We put a new code up every Monday morning, and it lasts until Sunday night, and then it expires, and then we do it again with a different code next week. The special is 50% off a bundle that you create. You got to go to totalsum.com, go to our merchant area, and pick an ebook and a total tester practice test. Put them from the same study topic: A+, Net+, Sec+, CYSA+, Pen Test+, and AWS SAA. Those are what we have them for at the moment. So you get ebook for A+, and Total Tester for A+, put them in your basket. And then when you check out, use the code this week, Drake. Drake. Okay, the hip hopper, the rapper, or the sailor, whichever makes you happy. It's all the same. It's all lowercase. And that's good till this Sunday night. That will get you 50% off of those 2 items in your basket. Now, if you have other items in your basket, you'll pay regular price for those, but Drake will work to take 50% off of the ebook and the Total Tester bundle. It's already insanely cheap. You get them for 50% off. Now it's even cheaper. Absolutely awesome. What is this? Oh, yeah. Let's get all the advertising out of the way in one fell swoop. We'll do this kind of British style. If I'd done it, I would have done it all at the beginning of the hour, right? So there's a Discord channel. It's the unofficial Total Seminars Discord channel. It was built by and managed by a lot of the folks that are here in the YouTube chat right now. Tullowit's a moderator, and Andre de Goyert's a moderator, and the official founder was Siegfried Vanderwee. I think he's changed his name now. Maybe it's just Siegfried, something like that. Anyways, I'll put the link again up in the chat here in just a couple seconds. And it's a really broad spectrum Discord channel with everything from help me understand Linux, help me fix my computer. We're playing World of Warcraft Classic, and many other sub forums on there. This link is permanent, so come on over, hit that link and join us, and we would love to talk with you. You can come in and offer help. You can come and ask for help. There's a lot of smart people there. You may be one of those smart people who can come on and give us a hand. Total Seminars doesn't own or operate or have any official connection with it. That's why it's the unofficial Total Seminars Discord channel. But we are users of it, just like everybody else. All right, we'll come and do that stuff later. So that's all good stuff for momento. But Trish agrees, I covered that. Blue Lantern, is there an app that reads the ebook to you? I don't know. Anybody know the answer to that? I've never used an ebook. I guess that's not 100% true. My mom passed away 4 years ago. No pity. I don't blame anybody here. It's okay. She's a good lady. Miss her. She lived sparsely, but somewhere along, she was a voracious reader all of her life. And one day she said, books. That's an encumbrance on my space in my life. And she got rid of most of her hard copy books and switched to a Kindle, of Fire, whatever. I don't know what it was, but it's one of the few things that I got from her estate. Wasn't interested in anything, and there was a handful of books in there, and I read through some of them on it, and it was an interesting experience for me. I like it, I suppose, these days more than I have in the past, because eyes are getting old. I got nice glasses, but I don't like to wear them. So I can pinch expand the screen, but no, can you get it to read out loud to you? I don't know. Look, it's 2022. Somebody has surely invented an ebook audibilizer. I'm reading this list before I read it out loud, just see how much trouble I get in here. Today is National Chewing Gum Day, National Hot Mulled Cider Day. That sounds so delicious. And Mud Pack Day. Okay, thank goodness. Becky Tommy, I've noticed that there is a total tester for the 1101 and 1102. When is the rest of the content going to be up? Okay, so a total tester for 1101 and 1102 exists. You took my thunder there, Techie Tommy, and that's completely okay. I was going to mention that in news and tech tips of the week, but there you go. So we have total tester for the 1100 series. When is the rest of the content? What do you mean by rest of the content? We have begun uploading episodes of the video courses to Udemy. We can't flip the switch on the course until they're all up and we've built the landing pages and the descriptions and all that happy stuff. However, the plan is still mid-month, week and a half, 2 weeks before the old A+ expires. The drop dead date, if things go wrong, is still targeted for October 20th. So expect the videos to be up in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And they will therefore also be available as products on the at totalsem.com on our hub product. Other products. We are making new Total Sims. We've got a good sized team of people working on them. I have shot 40 out of 60 shows, which are one of the 4 sim types. If the missus wasn't out of town, we would have them finished by Sunday night. I've hired a high school student, next door neighbor, to work with me this weekend to see if we can knock out 13 of them. We'll do it in 2 sessions. And then the other handful, however many there is, I don't know, 4, 5, 7, no more than 7, I think. I will do when the missus gets back in town. She arrives late night Thursday, so we'll shoot them Friday. And then my part will be handed off. The person who's working on the challenges, he's kind of the not the project lead. He's not in charge of it, but he does projects first. Then I get his projects, and somebody higher up than me says, this one should be a show, and this one, and this one, and this one. And then I'm getting too old and too lazy to write scripts. So we take his stuff, they turn it into a script, then it gets sent to me, then I rewrite them because they don't work for the people who are writing the scripts don't have hands-on equipment in front of them to say, oh yeah, this is what you would do. And this is, so, I rewrite them over the course of the day, and then we start shooting. We realize that, that doesn't work. Hang on, stop, and okay, let's cut, let's do it again. And either way, shows will be completed by the end of next weekend, unless they throw some more surprise scripts at me. The other 2 types of sims, the types, which are type in commands to answer questions. We haven't changed that engine. So whoever's working on those, it's probably done. And if it's not, I know we're going to recycle some from the past because you need them for today's stuff. And then the challenges that we've contracted out, and I have no idea what the status of that is. But long answer, won't be long. Nobody should be very far behind me. So hopefully a couple of weeks. So what do we have? We have 4 products that we think are ideal for studying for CompTIA. You need videos, so they're going up. You need a book. The book is written, it's done. We've got the page proofs. We are waiting for paper to arrive at the printer so they can print. Total Sims, almost done. And Total Tester is done. So, these things take time, but a year from now, people are going to say, man, you guys have had that stuff out for a long time. There's always a grand impatience in the earliest days. Well, I dragged that out, didn't I? It's already 28 past. Blue Lantern, are you sure the book is in Total Sim? All I see is practice tests, practice labs, and videos. That's right, the book isn't in yet. We're waiting for the book to be printed. The ebook will be out sooner than the hard copy book, and it's a moving target from what we hear from our publisher. Edgar Salinas, good to see you back, my friend. Welcome. Okay, so we've worked out Mud Pack Day. Hello, Donna Dinga. And Andre de Goyert is here. You already got mentioned, Andre. Nice to see you. And thanks for your input and feedback on my project. Please don't specify what it is on here, but I will tell you that I know why I have the boot loop problem. As you and I talked on the Discord channel yesterday, textually, I'm using a two different Intel profiles, CPU profiles, and they are both working for the install. But when I try to reboot, I wind up in a boot loop, and I just looked at the actual CPU in the computer. It's an AMD. So my goal here, my plan is I'm going to do the install. I'm not going to reboot. I'm going to do the 4 shows that I need to do on that, and then I can dump it and I don't care, because it does work absolutely fine after the install. In fact, I did an install last night, and I left it run 24 hours overnight and tested again today. It was still working. I tested a couple of the scripts on it. They worked fine. So then I stopped and had an idea and did another rebuild and reboot, and it failed. So got another fresh rebuild that I had to cook up, but it's ready. So we're going to shoot those 4 this weekend and get that thing off my plate. Max. Ugh, Mac. National Whoopee Cushion Day. I'm working on a whoopee joke with that. Whoopee, what's her name? But I can't get anything. No, that's not the problem, Andre. The problem is that it's an AMD CPU. Because the thing that you are presenting isn't required. I'm actually using the beta ISO, which doesn't require what you're specifying there. Okay. And we have 15, 20 people here, something like that. Now let me do news and all that stuff. Then we'll get into a contest. Let's get all this stuff caught up. So did that. So here's my reminder. We do I do a project almost every week. Oh yeah, and apologies for last week. Last Thursday, knock on the door. Power company crewmen are here, and they say, we're going to change out a pole. All right. We have to turn off power at the pole behind your house, which is going to kill a lot of the neighborhood, but we need to do that. We're going to do it today around lunchtime, which was Thursday, and then we're going to do it tomorrow around lunchtime, which is roughly around the showtime. And so I labored over it. Should I kill the show? Will there be power when I start? Will there be no power? Will there be power when I start and lose it? And nobody has clear answers. These are kind of answers that are in flux. So check to see if I can get somebody else to cover the show. Mike wasn't available. He was traveling. So I said, all right, let's just bag it. So apologies, there was no show last week, but we're making up for it now and doing last week's show this week. Anyway, so this week's show is about infrastructure as code, which is, how about it's an Ansible. And if you have heard of Ansible and don't know what it is or been intimidated by the thought, perish your intimidation. I'm going to show you just how easy Ansible is to install and test. And then next week, we're going to do 1 or 2 projects with it that are also very, very easy. Obviously, it's powerful and it can be sophisticated and it can be complicated and there can be a heavy learning curve. But starting out simply is the way we learn things, and then you just add to it piece by piece as time goes by. So, do you need a Raspberry Pi to do this? Missed it. Got a gnat flying around. Not really. For the type of install that I'm doing, you could probably do this on most Linux distros. But hey, we're Raspberry Pi focused, and so that's what we're going to do. So last week, that was power. The week before that, we installed Boink. The Berkeley Open Interface, whatever it was, the thing that allows you to let other services use your idle CPU to work on science and math and medicine and history and all kinds of other good things. So it was really fun. Set that up on Raspberry Pis, and hope you get a chance to play with that. That's kind of fun. So details on project today. We're going to do a CompTIA objective Comes from SY0601 Security Plus, and it's Objective 2.2. Grand heading, summarize virtualization and cloud computing concepts. This is a terrible fit because its infrastructure as code, IAC, and it is a methodology. IAC in general is a methodology for versioning hosts in an automated fashion. We use code, we use a program to program other computers. That's infrastructure as code, and that's not necessarily a cloud concept. I'm not going to use anything that's cloud-like. I certainly could. I could put a server in the cloud, and I could update cloud hosts, but it really doesn't fit well under virtualization. I'm not doing any virtualization or cloud computing. We could apply those things, but we're going to do it by using this program, Ansible, to deploy and configure applications to one or more hosts. And if you look at the objectives in Security Plus, under IAC, Infrastructure as Code, there are two sub-objectives: software-defined networking, SDN, and software-defined visibility, SDV. And it just doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense. And I'm going to talk about that in the presentation. And again, as I tie this up in a bow, I'll offer my interpretation of what I believe they're thinking, and we'll go from that. So if you want to follow along, can you do this in follow along? Yeah, you could do this in real time follow along. There's no long installs or anything like that. Of course, you can always download from zapto.org, from pirsquare.zapto.org, and follow along in there. Okay, there are some things I promised to do and haven't done yet. Let me get the links and email addresses and all that happy stuff posted. So we start with the address to the PyRSquare server, and then the permalink to the unofficial Total Seminars Discord channel, the specials of the week with the code Drake. Speaking of Drake, RIP Coolio, all right? Sorry, man. Email addresses. Hey, there's mine. Dave Rush's email address. And Dave Rush's LinkedIn profile. I haven't posted anything in a week because the last thing I posted was all about the show that was supposed to be last week. And the only thing I did was update that post to reflect that it's going to happen this week. All right, that takes care of all of those links. Beg your pardon. Should have a cough switch here. We've got a mixer, but it doesn't have the cough switch on. Maybe I'll build one for that. That sounds fun. All right, news, tricks, techniques of the week, stuff we need to know, stuff that's good to know. Around September 10th, 20 days ago, 3 weeks ago, give or take, Raspberry Pi operating system had a new release. And we talked about that when it happened, lots of new cool features in it. Well, as with all shiny new releases, it had some built-in bugs. And so on September 22nd, 8 days ago, a new release came out, mostly bug fixes. I don't think there was any new major things. So what did they bug fix? And that means if you took advantage of the one that came out 2 weeks ago, do a dist upgrade or a full upgrade, or scrap it and do a fresh install. Anyway, so it's Raspberry Pi OS 2022-09-22, and it improves the detection of Bluetooth HID devices, like Bluetooth mouse, Bluetooth keyboard. Those are HIDs, human interface device. It improved the startup speed of the LX panel network controller plugins. You don't care mostly about that. Let's see, there's some typos in Bluetooth devices, a mutter crash, a couple issues in the boot script, typo in Raspi config utility that resulted in the creation of an empty file. So that's no good. This one is kind of important to some people. There was a They built in new keyboard shortcuts. So when I want to go play around with Wi-Fi, I can do Control Alt W or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. But some of them that they built in didn't work. So they've got those fixed. What else? The searchable main menu is ignored if caps lock or num lock is active. Anyway, there's a new version. It's a bug fix. And if you're not updating and upgrading regularly, good time. Oh, they also upgraded the Linux kernel, which is always good because that adds security. Steve Nicholson was scheduled to be on Mike's show 2 days ago. He is impacted by the Florida hurricane. And so when things get closer to normal for him, I will get him rescheduled and back on. He'll continue his presentation on new A+ objectives. Hopefully you did get to see Bilgener. It's Bilg, hard G. On Wednesday's show, a little bit of me. And I talked about that. Here's industry news that I want you to know about. A few years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, the web server of choice in Linux installations was Apache. It's still important. It's still very, very popular. I use it in a lot of instances. However, a competitive product has come online and has ruled the roost for the last 5 years, and that's Nginx. We've used Nginx in here in a couple of our installs. And one of the really neat things about Nginx is it's so much more than a web server. It's got built-in proxy services and lots of other good features. We did that, in fact, recently on a show 3-4 weeks ago. We set up a reverse proxy, maybe 5 weeks, whatever. Well, Cloudflare is a big company that provides all kinds of services, including using reverse proxies to route traffic between their network servers and the internet. And they have been using Nginx as their tool of choice forever. Now they move 80%. Well, they move unbelievable amounts of internet traffic that you start reading through the stats and they get a little funky. What is it? Cloudflare handles more than 10% of all HTTP and HTTPS world internet traffic. Globally, they serve 25 million HTTP requests every second of every day, 24 hours a day. And they're used by 80% of all websites that use a reverse proxy service. So Nginx has been doing yeoman's service for years in order to accomplish this. Again, Cloudflare is using Nginx. However, as Cloudflare's, I keep saying Flare's scale has grown, they've outgrown Nginx. And so they have built and have been slowly deploying their own, and it's called, back up here, Pingora, Pingora. It's not as full featured as Nginx, but that's not what it's designed to. As a proxy server is really what they want to turn this thing into, a very high speed, highly scalable proxy server to replace their use of Nginx. And so they have, and they are, and they will. Well, what's next? They're going to make it a publicly accessible, an open source product. So it's not something that most of us are going to need. You're not probably running 50,000 web servers at your web hosting site in the basement. But it'll give us all a new tool for web proxy. All right, that takes care of that. Caught up to everything up to the contest. So let's see here. Reading questions here. I'm following up at 2:31. Yeah, Andre. So yeah, you mentioned that you had the same problem, and that was what kind of got me into researching that. Uh, the problem for me, I think, is that the AMD chip is so new that the CPU profiles aren't correct and complete for it. And I was looking online to discover you can write your own CPU profile. All you have to do is know everything about Intel and AMD chip internals. And my expertise does not run that deep. So I'm using my workaround solution. It's just 4 shots and done. Donner Dinga, Deva, between Ruckus wireless devices and Cisco APs, which do you prefer? I have no experience with Ruckus. I understand Cisco. I don't like Cisco because they make you license everything. So you'll find me playing in the enterprise arenas with Juniper and Unity. The languages that the iOS that Cisco uses are very, very similar. For the other enterprise competitors, again, no experience with Ruckus, so can't help you there. For here at home, what have I got? I don't use any of the enterprise grade stuff. I'm an ASUS guy. I've got a pair of ASUS routers running right now, and you've just tripped my trigger. So let me bring this over. I'm here, stand by. I bought an appliance. It's from Netgear. I have a lot of Netgear stuff. Many of my switches are Netgear and Linksys. But let me show you what this box is. This is for the people who talk the talk but don't walk the walk. And I wasn't one of them in this case, I'm happy to say, but this puppy's new in box. I love this thing. I have a secret site that I shop for where they sell stuff that oftentimes they don't know what they're selling. And this is one of them. This is a Netgear. If you want to look it up, it's an all one word here, FVS 336G. Fox Victor Sierra 336 Golf version 3. And what you've got here is 4 switch ports, which can be configured into a independent DMZs. We've got 2 WAN ports, which means I can have 2 different service providers or 2 different connections from the same service provider operating in tandem or as failover mode. That's kind of cool. And then built into this thing is a hardware firewall, a hardware SSL IPsec VPN, and of course, routers and all the rest of that stuff. And this is just an awesome and a half box. So this will give me the excuse to get that. I don't even need an excuse to get a second ISP providing these services here. I love the idea of a network-wide firewall. So I want that, and hardware VPNs that are both SSL secured are faster than any software-based one. I like my Raspberry Pi one. It works fine for 1 or 2 people logged in, but if we're on the road and the kid wants to log in and I want to log in from 2 or 3 different sites, things get a little slow running through a Pi, not through that puppy. So that's my project of the next 2 weeks. Yeah, okay, so I was doing tricks and traps. There we go. No, I wasn't. I was answering questions. So I totally went off track answering your question, but bottom line, I don't like Cisco because of their licensing. Their products are fine. They're reliable. They're powerful. They're fast. They're expensive. Is it worth the additional expense? Maybe if you're happy with their support, but not my neck of the woods. Yes, I do have a generator or an APU. Only in my big rig and my aircraft. I can't use Drake unless I put the ebook and total tester into the cart, but there is no A+ ebook to put into the cart. You're right. It doesn't exist yet. You'll just have to wait. When it comes out, we'll make that available, and there'll be new code that week and every week thereafter. So sorry about that, Blue, but it doesn't exist yet. We don't. It comes out of the publisher. We have given them. We've written them a book. It's been edited 3 different ways this Sunday. It's been page proofed. It's done. It's handed off to them. All they got to do is convert it into an electronic ebook and to convert it into paper. And that's on their schedule. So that's what not everybody realizes about the book business. The publisher hires us as authors. We don't own the book. We write the book. We get author credits for that. We get paid to write the book. And then we get a little bit, tiny microscopic bit of royalty off of the books that they sell. And actually, if we want to sell books, we have to buy them from the publisher, which we do. And then we mark them up like $1 or $2, just so people can go directly to Total Sim and get the book. So once we've written it, we've handed it off. We have nothing to do with it. We still support it. We agree to provide support for the electronic products that we have been contracted to create, like Total Sims and other products along those lines. But it's their baby now, and we are at their mercy for when they choose to print and provide. National Killer Mad Day. I've been chasing that little guy down for a couple of days. No, so they're marvelous. Their random flight paths are so non-deterministic. You just can't get them unless they happen to be sitting on something. All right, all my junk was posted there. Bright and sunny, power just hiccuped, huh? Switch to my phone. Time to get more UPSs. There's a guide I used, which worked on my CPU. I'm running a Ryzen. Okay, I will touch base with you and see what guide you use. Maybe that'll help. Don't get me wrong. I got multiple 48 port switches around here, but so the point of that thing is to connect one of those switch ports to your normal feed switches, or as I said, each of those 4 switch ports can connect to an independent DMZ. So I can make 3 different DMZs out of that thing, and then have one that feeds to my regular switched connection. That thing's magic. What do I think of FortiGate? No experience. My primary experience with hardware firewalls is SonicWall. I've seen others, but I can't say I've ever got my hands on them. So I don't have an answer. All right, I'm caught up on questions. It's 2:53. It's a perfect time to do a contest. We're going to give away 90-day free access to any Total Tester online of your choice. And by the way, if you choose the new A+, you get both 1101 and 1102. That's the only one we do that for. But that's among your choices that you may have. So I'm going to put up a multiple choice question that will have 4 possible answers, one of which is correct. I don't do A, B, C, D. You must type in the correct answer to my satisfaction in order to be the winner. Only 1 entry per person per contest. Andre, you make me work too hard when you do your thing there, so please don't. Previous winners can win, but if I see a right answer from somebody who's won 3 times and a right answer of someone who's won never or once, that's my satisfaction, because we're trying to spread this around just a little bit, right? All right, and then when we get all done, I will post to the winner how to collect your winnings. That's ready to go. Let's bring up the page O contest. It's right there. All right, so this is a question that originally I copy pasted from Total Tester, and then I wasn't happy, and I kind of rewrote it, and now I have no idea of what its condition is. But let's just bring the thing up as a shared thing, and we'll go from there. Tutorial, TTO winner. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring up the question. You'll be able to see the first answer choice as I talk about the question. Then I'll make them all visible. It's just the way I didn't plan and do enough spaces. So hang on till you see all 4 of them, and then start typing in your answers to the YouTube chat. All right, so it's a multiple choice question. Choose a single answer. It's from N10008. Type in the correct answer. Don't put in A, B, C, or D. Question. Okay, here's the question. Which protocol maps IP addresses to layer 2 data link layer addresses? I gave you 4 protocols here to choose from: ping, TCP, netstat, ARP. Again, here's the question. Which protocol maps IP addresses to layer 2 data link layer addresses? Your choices are ping, TCP, netstat, and ARP. Is that the Association of Retired Persons? All right, look it down here for answers. By the way, just because you pass doesn't mean I will allow a pass. Reading answers as they're rolling by here. LLDP, huh? I believe it has to be one of the choices that I place up here. 30-watt phase plasma rifle. You passed today, Mika Joe. I don't know why. Oh, that's interesting. I'm not sure if I have a satisfactory answer yet, so please don't give up. I got to go look something up. I don't usually do this anymore, but this one's special. $8.19. Okay. I'm willing to accept that if it comes down to it. All right, I have a winner. This winner has won once in the past, and that's enough. That I got funny answer, Dono Dingo. Very nice. Our winner. Well, let's get the somebody griped the other day that we don't always remember to specify the answer. So, okay, let's put the answer up. And lots of people got the right answer. I'm picking a particular one. Let's see where. Okay, it's right here. So the right answer is ARP, the Address Resolution Protocol. We've beaten this protocol to death. But at the time that I picked the question out of the blue, I was on short notice, and okay, I'm just gonna fine, we'll do another ARP one. I will not do ARP again. I'm tired of it. But ARP's the protocol used to resolve an IP address into a MAC address. RARP is the other way around. MAC addresses live at layer 2, data link layer. And this was more complicated. It was which protocol maps layer 3 to layer 2 addressing. Okay. So our winner is Slingbuzz. Slingbuzz, I've got you winning something back on 819. You may win again. And Slingbuzz, let's see, where's the winner thing here? Well, let me go here first of all and put this on the YouTube chat at Slingbuzz. Okay, Slingbuzz, the instructions, you know the instructions because you've done this once before, but do it again if you'd be so kind. You can pick another Total Tester online if you like. Since you won before, I can also offer you, if we have it, I don't remember what you won, the total sims for whatever you want. So if it was the old A plus 10.0x. We got Total Sims 4. We have Total Sims for Network Plus N10008, and I'm working on Total Sims for the new 11.0x. But you know, pick whatever you want. Maybe you want the new 11.0x Total Tester. So what you're going to do, of course, anybody who wins these, you're going to send an email to me at my company address, daver@totalsim.com. And in that body of the email, you must put 4 fields: your YouTube name, your given name, first and last, your email address, and which practice test you would like from Total Tester. Or in fact, I will make this available to everyone. You may have, instead of a practice test, if you win a contest here, a TTO contest, you can also, instead, you could have Total Sims, whatever's available. How's them apples? I'm going to tick off upper management with that one, right? All right. Congratulations, Sling Buzz. Little setup here. Save that. Shrink this. Done with you. Done with you. Free up some screen real estate for me. Must be NetStat. It was old A plus. All right. So if you're going to complete the A plus by April 20th, cool. I'm sorry, by October 20th. If you're not, then maybe you're going to start looking into the 1100 series and start over with that. Because I know your old A plus. Oh, if you have the old A plus, if you won that as Total Tester, you will automatically be upgraded to the 1100 A plus if they haven't already done that for you. So anybody who won 10.0x A plus, as soon as we made the 11.0x A plus is available, everybody got a free upgrade and access to that. All right. We are at the second hour or so. Seems like a good time to start a project. So our project, if we take the techie talk out of it and we take the CompTIA out of it, we are installing and testing Ansible on Raspberry Pi. And when I say testing, what we're testing is the installation, not usage of projects. So we'll do that next week. So again, we're back to CompTIA objectives. It's the beginning of, I didn't know if it was going to be a 2-part or a 3-part series. I think I'm going to do this in 2 parts. We'll make a firm determination as I write this week. And we're talking about infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code means take a program, run it on a computer, of course, because it's a program, and use it to program other computers that are involved in your infrastructure. Now, that's the CompTIA mindset. So we're going to use this to install and update SDV, software-defined visibility, and SDN, software-defined networking. So I got this computer. I want it to be a gateway host at some site that I have. And I want an identical or almost identical one at another site. Now I'm creating software-defined networking as long as there exists some kind of connection path like the internet between those. Oh, hey, how about a third site over here and a fourth? All of those boxes are going to be generally identical, minor differences with slightly different IP addresses and things like that. But wouldn't it be cool then if I had a piece of software that would handle the deployment of all the packages and configuration to those machines? So that's the true nature of infrastructure as code. And again, they give these 2 examples: software-defined networking and SDV, software-defined visibility. I'll get into that in just a second. Now, we're going to take the same software that you would use to deploy SDNs and SDVs onto hosts and deploy other stuff, because the software to do this is exactly the same. And again, we're using Ansible to do it. The point of this process, the point okay, fine, infrastructure as code, but also non-infrastructure or semi-infrastructure as code is, number one, it avoids manual configuration. there are two problems, at least with manual configuration. One of them is it's time consuming. The other is there are possibilities to be inconsistent. They can deliver stable test environments very rapidly at huge scales. I can use IAC and Ansible, or Ansible as IAC, and use it to provision one host or 10 hosts or 100 hosts or 1,000 hosts or 5,000 hosts. And it happens really, really, really fast. How about, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but we did an exercise. Can I pull that off of there? Nah, it's all too interconnected. But we did a cluster setup a while back. And as a project, it was set up to do 3. I found some extra pies around and grew mine a little bit by 5. And when I grew my from 3 to 5, I discovered that vastly experienced installer that I was, and because I've been doing this stuff so much for the episodes, that I could really crank one out fast. Oh, let's add a new unit here. It took 45 minutes for each new unit that I added to here. With Ansible, after I've got everything all set up and prepped and ready to go, it's a button push and I walk away. And if I'm doing, well, first of all, it's going to cut the time in half. I don't have to sit there and wait for things, and I don't have to type in things and come back and revisit it. So project like that would cut in half. Next, it does them all simultaneously. So if I'm doing 1, it takes 22.5 minutes. If I'm doing 5, it takes 22.5 minutes, maybe a tad more. You get the idea. So I can scale and deliver test environments very quickly. All right, I'm not going to read all that junk. So all that pre-setup says, now we're going to use a very popular program to be our software that performs the installations, the updates, the configurations of other hosts. That piece of software is called Ansible. Oh man, I went through to correct all the typos in your document and mine, and missed one, Ansible. So Ansible is scary because we hear the term frequently if you live in the IT world, but until you've touched it, the explanations of what it is and what it does can be a little confusing, can be a little oblique, and can be a little intimidating. And then, oh man, if I'm intimidated just by not understanding what people are poorly explaining, it would be that much worse to try to use the thing. That's where I was before I started this project. And so I sat down and said, let's learn this and let's find a way. This is what I do. I am an instructor, to present it in such a way that it doesn't come with terror and intimidation. And if it does, if I learn this and this is really overly complicated, then it's not something that we need to do for drama, but it's not. It's a wonderful, easy to do thing. All right, so there's a category of code that does this stuff. It's called provisioning software. There's a broader category called deployment software. So provisioning software says, I have the ability to make some kind of a change to some host. Deployment software says, I have the ability to make that same change or that same addition to multiple hosts in an automated fashion. Just today, before I put everything up on pyrsquare.zapto.org, I was planning for next week's project. And so I was doing some reading and I ran across something kind of interesting. It's trivia, but the term Ansible itself, it's the name of a product. It was invented by an author, Ursula K. Le Guin, in a novel in '66 that some of you may know, Rokinon's World. And it refers to a fictional technology to provide instantaneous communication systems, or to be an instantaneous communication system. So that's kind of this cool concept that says, I got my Ansible controller here, and here's all my little hosts, and I say, go. And he says, gotcha. Taking care of provisioning and deploying to all these hosts effectively, instantaneously, compared at least to doing it all independently. Ansible Used to be Ansible Works Incorporated. They got bought out by Red Hat, and Red Hat is owned by IBM. They do make it publicly available. So, excuse me, hiccups, as there always do. I did a lot of research, read from a lot of different websites and tutorials, and I built my project, I didn't even want to say in large part, but in part around a tutorial that I'm going to show you here. First of all, I'm going to put the tutorial link on the YouTube feed right now. Tutorial. And let's call it Ansible on Raspberry Pi. All right, and just for hoots, I think that's the last thing that I need to put up for here, because it is. All right, so the tutorial that I got the most information that I was able to absorb into my project today came from raspy.farm. It's a site that I haven't used in the past, so that was kind of cool. How-tos install Ansible, and that's the link that's on the YouTube chat right now. So yeah, we'll leave that up just in case. Now, the first thing we got to do is throw out the way they did an installation. They wanted us to install Ansible by using git clone. And the reason that they did that is because it's getting a little long in the tooth, and whatever system he was using at the time, the repository had an older version of Ansible. It was pre-version 2. And so to get a more current version, he said, go to the source, go to the Ansible GitHub and get it from there. The version that's in Raspberry Pi Buster repository is version 2.10. It's very current. And so that's what we're going to do here. You don't need, so use my tutorial. It cleans up a lot of the steps that you have to kind of dig in from his older stuff. Required hardware, a Raspberry Pi running 32-bit OS. Doesn't have to be a high-end model. A 2 works, a 3B, a 3B plus works fine on anything with at least a gig of RAM, but again, the 2 has 512 and it'll work on there because it doesn't really take up a lot of CPU cycles to do its job, and it doesn't take up a lot of memory. It might take up a lot of space if you're going to store a lot of stuff that's going to be deployed, but you can do that by plugging in USB storage devices or whatever. If speed matters and you're going to move a lot of data from your Ansible host to remote host, a 4 is appropriate, or at least a 3B plus, because they have full speed. Well, the 3B plus has 600 megabit Ethernet on their gigabit interface. It can't quite push through the whole gigabit. And the 4s have full speed. Full speed's a technical term. They have full gigabit coming out of theirs. So. All right. So we need a Raspberry Pi. We need an enclosure, an internet connection, wired or wireless. And the current version of Raspberry Pi OS. So I'm putting mine on a 4B plus. It's got 4 gigs because that's what I had in front of me. Would have just been fine. Goodness gracious. And the machine that I'm using is the same machine that I used on the Boink project. All I did was uninstall Boink and change the name. So you don't need a fresh install of Raspberry Pi OS to do this. And it runs fine sitting on a machine and running with other processes running on it. Depends on how busy you want to keep your Ansible machine. Now, how does it do its job? Well, what Ansible does is it establishes an SSH connection from itself to one or more remote hosts, and then performs commands on that remote host, as if you had logged in with SSH and started typing on there. Those commands might say, get some software from GitHub, a wget website, a curl website, a repository, or, hey, I've got some software that you need. I'll either push it up to you and you can install it from a local, or you can come to my file service and access it. But bottom line is it's a computer sitting at the keyboard of another computer running commands to update and configure and change it. So the infrastructure is made up of two elements: a host running Ansible, which also holds things called playbooks, configuration files, and an inventory file. I'll get into all that stuff. This is called the Ansible controller or the Ansible control host. And then one or more hosts that are going to be configured. So let me show you graphically a very, very simplistic view of what happens here. Share this, do that, oops. Then you actually have to click the word share. There we go. Okay, so here's my Ansible controller, and it has a file in there with a list of the hosts that it's going to be updating and configuring and adding and removing and whatever. And it has a playbook. A playbook is the list of tasks that it's going to perform on the remote or the target node. And then there's one or more target nodes that Ansible is going to work on. These target nodes can be on the local network. They can be across the internet. We can specify them with IP addresses. We can specify them with just host names if they're on the local network. We can specify them with full FQDNs, all kinds of different ways to do that. Now, the Ansible controller doesn't care what kind of host you're connecting to. Might be a Raspberry Pi, might be a Linux distro of some other flavor, might be something else, might be an Android box, a Mac box, a Windows box. As long as you can establish an SSH connection to it and Ansible can send the kinds of commands that it's expecting, that's pretty cool. So I can run an Ansible controller, the Ansible host, controller itself, on Windows machines, Mac machines, Linux of any kind, Android, iOS boxes, virtual machines, containers, whatever you got. And the hosts, the target nodes, can be any of those boxes as well. So it's pretty incredible stuff. All we got to be able to do is establish an SSH connection and then send the right commands. As I said, it doesn't take a lot of memory. It doesn't take a lot of CPU horsepower. Storage, that'll depend. But for those first two reasons, a Raspberry Pi is a fantastic use as an Ansible controller. And there's lots of folks out there running Ansible on Raspberry Pi Model 2s. Now, let me show you a little more sophisticated view of an Ansible process. And you're going to see it's mostly the same thing here. Share screen, this one, this one. So here's my Ansible controller. And it can be connected to hosts that are local through a public or private cloud, They can be over the internet. They can be cloud-based. We could be cloud-based. Users can access the Ansible controller to program it, to set it up, to configure it, to install it. And then once we're ready to use Ansible, first of all, we have to create a host inventory. That's a fancy word that means list of hosts that we're going to be updating. And I'm going to show you some really cool things about that file that holds those. Playbooks, the list of tasks that we're going to be performing on the inventory hosts, the targets. And then here are some optional things that the Ansible host may send over for inclusion. Again, the Ansible host may be the local repository for stuff that's being added to remote host, or we may just send commands over the remote host that says, hey, go get an application from here, do a sudo apt install, whatever, FTP server. All right, so it's really the same thing. We just added a few more details here and some possible stuff that we want to send instead of have these guys go out and find it on their own or find it from a command on their own. Those graphics are in the download list today. All right, so let's get things fired up. I'm going to get Putty going here, and I'll connect to my what will be my Ansible host. Ansible is not presently installed on it. All of my hosts are current. They are updated and upgraded, including the Ansible controller. And what we're going to do today is three steps. We're going to install Ansible. We're going to create the inventory file, the list of hosts that are going to be updated, and I'll show you some cool tricks and traps about that. And then we'll test Ansible to make sure Ansible is running and it can read the information we put in the inventory. Now I'm going to do another kind of test with it, but all right. So let me get Putty going here. Putty pi at Ansible pi dot local. And that's all I need. And it goes buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. Password is Raspberry, RASPBERRY. Und then we share. We're going to try and do something magical today. I'm going to try not to start mistyping in the wrong file. No chance that'll work, but it'd be fun if it did. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. You can read all this stuff. Oh, I did want to mention one final thing here. Then that's, again, CompTIA sees infrastructure as code as this very narrow deployment thing to allow something like Ansible to deploy installation and configuration to gateway hosts specifically geared to software-defined networking and SDV. Now, we've talked about software-defined networking in here and in Mike's class. I'm not going to dive over to that again. I kind of mentioned everything that you need to know for now. But SDV is a term that's brand new to the trifecta world of CompTIA certifications in the last couple of years. So it stands for Software Defined Visibility, and the name is very misleading. Let's give it a dictionary definition. SDV is a comprehensive framework of security tools and protocols to protect networks. Software Defined Visibility says, I will let external sources access or see only what I want them to see. I'm going to build layers and walls of security around things that they should not see or access. That's all what SDV comes down to. All right, but again, we're going to use Ansible as just a generic deployment tool. And if you wanted to use it to deploy SDV software or SDN software, cool. It's just what you put in the playbook and where your sources are. Sorry, reading my notes. I don't want to read a whole bunch of stuff to you. I want to mention something about playbooks. We're going to mess with a couple different kinds of configuration files, and we're going to use plain text and simple text in all of them for today's example. There are more sophisticated ways to create some of the files that we are creating today, and they would use a YAML language, YML. You can use one or the other. They're easy. YAML is easy to learn, but I'm here to introduce the simplest stuff. Playbooks are not something that uses simple text. It has to be a YAML file. So I'm going to show you that next week. Again, it's simple to get started learning, and then you can add very easily to your skills. Dono Dinga, I think you asked what's in the cup. Same thing that's always in my cup. Iced tea with lemon. did that, talked about that. So when you get down to it, Ansible only does one thing. It replaces a human. Instead of me logging into that server, that host over there with SSH and typing in commands to add software, change software, reconfigure, update, do whatever, Ansible is going to do it for me. I'm going to pre-program Ansible and tell it what to do on my behalf. And then I'm going to give them a list of hosts to do that on and say, now go. And I sit back and he takes care of all of those hosts simultaneously. All right, so let's start the project here. So the first thing you would do, I already did this today, is update and upgrade, sudo apt update. You could hit the enter key here and then do the upgrade on another line, or you could say, and then sudo apt upgrade. And if you don't want to be prompted with, hey, are you sure you want me to do this? Yes or no? You could just say yes right here. And buzz, 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 and it gets updated and upgraded in hopefully short order if you're doing this on a regular basis. All right, we've done this. So I did it last night. I didn't know how long it was going to take, especially since there was a new OS out lately. Wanted to make sure you didn't have to see this. All right, so we're ready. We can install Ansible. And again, we're not going to do GitHub. This is going to take 2 minutes, minute and 50 seconds. Last time I installed it on here. So sudo apt install. And again, so I don't get prompted with -y or with yes or no. Okay, we hit the timer there. My second timer says 07. So while that's going, did I have it already running? How about sudo apt install Ansible -y? Okay. So while that's going on, the next step that we're going to perform when it's installed is to tell Ansible which hosts, we'll use Raspberry Pis, are going to be provisioned. And that list of hosts is called an inventory. So the file is the host inventory or the inventory file. And it's a list kept in a file. And the file is comprised of two kinds of entries. One is called a tag or a label. It's a word or words or whatever, but they all have to be connected, that says, I want to refer to the following list by this name. And so we create a name that's going to be the name of a list of hosts. And that name has to be in square brackets. And then underneath it, we put the list of hosts. That list can be IP addresses. It can be host names on the local network, like what have I got on here? Pi-hole.local, pi.hole, and other things. Lots of .local stuff. Okay, that's completed. Or they can be FQDNs. All right, the installation should be complete. Now, technically, you can name your inventory file anything you want, and you can store it anywhere you want. Old versions of Ansible used to create a folder automatically in the Etsy folder. So if we head over to Etsy, we do an ls -la of all the folders that start with A. That was painful. I got a better way. Let's just do an LSLA. These are listed alphabetically. So here's all the A's. And because they're listed alphabetically, you can see there's no directory after alternatives and before Apache called Ansible. So that no longer gets automatically created. We're going to do a lab in a little bit to create one manually. All right, we're back in our home folder. Now I've got a file in here that I've already created, and I'm going to rename it. All right, so now we're going to follow my lab here. So what we're going to do is make an inventory file. So we'll say nano. So I'm in my home folder. I don't need sudo. The name of the file I'm going to create, Ansible -inventory. And now we're in a blank word processor. And the first line we're going to create is a label. It goes in square brackets, can be anything you want. I'm going to call this provision pies because I'm going to do another. You can do multiple labels and multiple lists in here. There is a label called all, and you don't have to put anything in there. It says anything that I find in this file would qualify. Now let's put a couple of hosts in there. And you can also do something really creative here, like put a range of hosts, even if there's missing ones. That would be kind of cool. How about something like 192.168.1 dot, and now we're going to do some square brackets to specify a range, 102 dot dot 1, I don't know, 15. And so that's what you would get. It would, when we try to provision pies and we say, hey, use this list, he'll do 121, 141, and try everything from 102 to 115. Let's say 114 is offline or doesn't exist. He says, well, I tried that one, it didn't succeed. But as long as he can find the ones that he wants to, then the world's a cool place. You can do multiple tags. How about provision windows? And then we put the IP addresses of some Windows hosts in here, 192.168.1.156. I think that's the name of my machine. And 173 is an important Windows machine I have lying around here. Get the idea? So later I'll tell Ansible, hey, work with the provision pies list, work with the provision Windows list, work with all, which you always put up at front on top. All right, let's save that and close it. Control X, yes, enter. All right, so there's the file we just created. Ansible-inventory doesn't need any special extensions. Doesn't need any special permissions. So we're good to go. Now, by the way, if you don't specify the name of an inventory file when you run Ansible, he's going to try to look for a default one in one of 3 locations. I'm going to get into that for you in just a little bit. Oh, I guess I'm getting into that right now. So the first place he looks is in your current folder, wherever you happen to be. So if I say, I don't know, cd ... let's go up here to home, and I run Ansible and some set of command garbage after it, he's going to look for a default inventory file in this folder. If he doesn't find it in that folder, he looks in whoever's running this program's home folder for a folder called .ansible. There is no folder in here called .ansible. Our closest one is .boink, so don't need that there. And if he doesn't find a .ansible folder and or the correct default file in there, then he will look for an Ansible folder in the Etsy directory. And the default, excuse me, there's those hiccups again. All right, but we don't have any of those things. We don't have any of the directories. We don't have any of the default file name. So we're going to use that inventory, that Ansible inventory file to do some stuff. Buzz, buzz, grind, grind. All right, so let's do a test. First of all, let's run the Ansible command -help. Hey, good news. That tells us that Ansible is installed and the command at least works enough to provide help. So cool. So now let's see if it can understand our inventory file. And the way we do that is we run it with sudo Ansible, and then you specify the tag of the group of hosts that you want to use. And then it says, now, where am I going to read that tag, or where? And we say, oh, you're going to use the inventory file in the current directory. Since I didn't specify a whole host here, look for a file called Ansible inventory. Let's hit the enter key on that. And he says, okay, but I didn't know what to do. I read the file and you didn't give me anything to do with it. So got a problem there. And it all comes down to, hey, you didn't give me an argument. You didn't give me a command. So let's give it a command. I'm thinking here, I did some rewriting this week. Well, let's just give it a run, see what happens. So I'm going to tell it now, same thing, sudo Ansible, use the list called provision files in the inventory file called Ansible inventory, and I want to manually run the ping command 3 times. This is just good old-fashioned ping. Now, what he's going to do is attempt to read the tag here, identify the host, establish an SSH connection with those hosts. I'm going to get into that because that's the challenging part. And then when he gets on there, these are the commands that he should run when he's connected. So I got an invalid character found in the group name. So let's see what I did with the group name here. Let's see if what my typo was. Nano provision pies. Nope. Ansible inventory. There's probably all those control Ks that I did. So let's just recreate it from scratch. Doesn't matter. What matters is that I was able to have Ansible, this is the test, read the inventory file that I specified, Ansible inventory, establish an SSH connection with it, but even if it didn't, doesn't matter, but he was able to successfully identify the fact that under the provision pies tab is a host called 192.168.1.121 and another one called 1.141. Yeah, simple typo somewhere. Now I want to do the same thing, and let me go and use that file that I made earlier. So I'm going to remove the Ansible inventory, rm Ansible. And then I'm going to rename I could have left it as Ansiv. All right, that's not what I expected, but that's all right. We can do this. Oh, I guess I didn't recreate that. So let's get rid of these provision PCs. And let's do, another label. And here's a couple of hosts that I have on my network with which I have not exchanged keys. I did exchange keys, do SSH key exchange with those two, but these ones I didn't. So I'm going to run the same command, and I want to get a different kind of error here. And that's that's the key to this game here. I can't make Ansible prompt me for a password. Ansible says, once you turn me loose, I got to do everything on my own with no human user input. So I'm going to do another Ansible inventory here, complete with typo. But this time I'm not going to use provision pies. I'm going to use the list of no key pies. No key. Use the inventory file called inventory Ansible, manual ping C3. Okay, and this time it says not going anywhere with this. I either couldn't find the 166s or I couldn't find the pattern. Was it no key or no keys? Did I typo that? Yeah, typo. Let's fix this. No keys. There we go. A similar failure, but this time my connection plugin wasn't found. So it means like he couldn't establish an SSH connection with them. So next week, I'm going to show you how to exchange keys. Now, I showed you how to do that back when we did our clusters. And when I showed you that, I did the manual method. It's a very time-consuming thing. I'm going to show you next week the really quick automatic method, which is just super cool and super easy. So the command failed again, and that's okay. Failed for two different reasons this time. But the key here is that it was still able to read this inventory, Ansible-inventory file, find the label, find the hosts underneath it. So again, we have confirmed the function. Oh, I wonder what. Nah, can't specify that forever. Sorry, I'm inventing new labs on the fly. Never do that. Always test it first, right? That's a long way around. I shouldn't have to do a test of running a command just to see if Ansible can read my files. So how about we do a simpler test? Just testing Ansible now to see, can it read my inventory file and read the labels in there? So I'm going to say, all right, sudo Ansible, using the tag provision pies. This should fail because we didn't say -i Ansible host, ANSI -host. Oh man, I did it all last night, I swear. Ansible was two hosts, can read hosts under a tag. No inventory was parsed. Only implicit localhost is available. That's fine, provided host list is empty, only localhost is available. Note that the implicit localhost doesn't match all. All right. Well, just for hoots, let's try all. I didn't make an all entry, so all right, doesn't matter. We got the successful test that I wanted to. We were able to use a -i Ansible host. It's Ansible inventory, you idiot. There. All right. Everything works. You just got to type it in right. So it says, okay, I found 2 entries under the label, under the tag provision pies, and they were 192, 168. If you had put FQDNs there or server names or whatever, host names, that's what would have turned up. So this test tells us 4 things. Ansible's installed and working. Ansible can find a default inventory file or a specified one. It can find the tag as long as they match, and it can successfully read and report the hosts listed under the tab. So sweet. There, that was the command that I had here. Looking for one thing for a lab that I wrote. All right, doesn't matter. Nah, I want you to see it, and I got time. Inventory files, was there my user? All right, let's just do it in order. We'll see if I missed it, and I'll go back if necessary. Okay, there it is. So what we've been doing at this point is creating our own inventory file called Ansible inventory. Now there is a default file that, as I said, Ansible looks for in 3 places: current directory, my own home directory, plus .ansible, or in the Etsy directory, Etsy Ansible. So we're going to do that. We're going to make manually sudo make dir in the Etsy folder, a folder called Ansible. Done. Looking for one thing here, default name. No host. Oh, there it was. Okay. Got what I want. Now, if we take this Ansible inventory file and we rename it to hosts, that's the file name that Ansible is always looking for. So if I run, say, Ansible right now, and I don't specify a file that it should look for tags under, it looks in current directory for a file called host. Doesn't find one, it looks in my home directory.ansible.whack host. Doesn't find it there, then it looks in that folder that I just created. So let's do that. Let's move the host file to Etsy Ansible. So it's not here anymore. And we don't have an Ansible folder in here. So I'm going to run the same commands that we've run here in the past. How about sudo Ansible provision pies. And this time I'm not going to say -i in the name of some file. I'm just going to say list hosts. And he says, all right, I'm looking in current directory for a folder or for a file called host, didn't find it. Looked in the user/Raspberry Pi or user Pi, home Pi.ansible, didn't find that. Found this, it's got a typo in there of some kind of odd character in the group name, but it found it. So this is the normal way of doing things. Normally you would have a hosts file in whack Etsy, either your whack Ansible or in your home folder, home/pi/.ansible/hosts. Checking my notes. I think we're pretty well through it here. Do that again. Set of provision pies. No keys. Let's see what they're griping about with the invalid things. Ansible minus VVVV. The more V's that you put up to 4, the more verbose the report that you get is. So you can do minus V, minus VV. Valid characters fine, not replacing invalid characters in group name. And I don't know what the invalid characters were. Let's take a look, see if I can figure them out, but it should be square brackets. Cat, Etsy, Ansible, host. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Something funky. I'll have that worked out by next week. Well, kids, that's Ansible. The installation is a cakewalk. All you've got to do is sudo apt install Ansible. You create an inventory file with a label and the list of hosts underneath it. And then the only thing we've got to do after that is key exchanges on the host for SSH, and then build the playbooks, which we're going to do next week. So did all that. I want to do this command that I did a lab test on, but it will run ping forever on all of those, and I don't want to do that. So let's try something here. C space count, lowercase c. Is that what I did? Did I do uppercase C? No, I did lowercase. All right. Dogged if I know where that failure came from. But it's killing me, so I got to check something. Don't need this. Provision pies, I've exchanged keys on those. Let's see the failure here. Oh, it's a space for sure. I screwed that up. Okay. Same error. Yeah, I'll figure it out next week. Did that. I think we're about ready to wind up here. Same result as this experiment. Oh yeah, so the last thing, this one's a little bit ugly. When we establish an SSH connection with some other host over there, let's say we did that here, SSH, one more time, SSH to 192.168.1.121. When you establish an SSH connection with another host, you have to specify the account name that you want to connect with, right? There may be 500 accounts on that host. So how does it know which one? Well, you either specify an account name here, Fred, not colon, at, or if you don't do that, SSH says, I will use whatever name you're using as you're logged into this machine. So this works just fine when I'm logged in to my Ansible machine as Pi, and the accounts that I want to connect to are Pi. But if they're not, let's say I want to log into one as root, then what we have to do is bring up the inventory file and do some special information. So let's do that real quick here. Let's head over to Etsy. Sudo nano hosts. Oh, cd Ansible. Sudo nano host. And let's say that I've done a key exchange on this guy, new guy that I want to type in, 192.168 1.1.156. And then I've got to say Ansible underscore connection equals SSH. There are other kinds of connections that we can do. And then we're going to say Ansible user equals the name of the account over there that you want to connect using, Fred. You save that file. So now when we connect here to provision pi list, this one will use pi since I'm logged in as pi. This one will use pi, and this one will use Fred. Make sense? So again, you could have hundreds or thousands of machines and they could all have different login account names, and that would work just fine. Well, kids, that's Ansible in a pre-nutshell. We haven't done anything real with it, and the ping thing failed. I'll figure that out. I have no idea what's going on there. But let's talk about what we did here. So infrastructure as code is a procedure to use software to automatically provision hosts, add software, remove software, change software, configure it, whatever. It can be customized to provision any number of hosts, but when you're running a single Ansible instance on a list of hosts, it's going to do the same things to that list of hosts. So you want to do something different to other lists of hosts, you can do that. You can have crossovers in your inventory file. It gets fun. It's pretty easy. It can get a little bit complicated, but it's actually pretty easy to track. It can do very simple tasks on very small numbers of hosts, or it can do hugely customized, complex tasks, sophisticated tasks on specific groups and huge numbers of hosts. It's easy to get started. Doesn't take much effort to learn how to do complex provisioning. We covered why CompTIA's idea of IAC, infrastructure as code, is to deploy these configurations, these identical configurations and installations for software-defined networking gateways. Software-defined visibility might be the same gateway, right? You might be using an SDN gateway that has security settings in there to allow people to connect or not connect and access resources as appropriate. So I don't think it fits well under cloud or virtualization. I don't think it necessarily ties to SDN or SDV, though, yeah, okay, it's arguable, but there it is. Raspberry Pis are excellent platforms for Ansible controllers. Doesn't take up much memory, doesn't take up much CPU horsepower, may or may not take up a fair amount of storage space. But again, anything that you're going to put on some host out there, unless it's a gigantic data file with many, 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 many gigs of data, doesn't take up a ton of storage space in most instances. So give Ansible a try. Try this stuff from today, at least a simple install, a simple inventory file, and we'll carry on a little further next week. That winds me up. Let me check any final questions that have occurred in my absence. And we'll wind up here in 3 or 4 minutes or less if there's not much. Oh, goodness. I didn't have that stopped at the beginning of the project hour. There's lots of stuff going on here. I got to go way back. This will take more than 4 minutes to cover everything. Cables beat Wi-Fi every time. Almost always true. Except running it to the shed out back. Trisha Grace, wow, you have our solar system plugged into your switch. I use Ethernet over power. Ethernet over power. Okay, I have a 5-port switch. It's an interesting technology. Cat 7 plus, huh? As long as I don't have to do my own installation, my own connectors, man. When I become president, says Blue Lantern, I'm using $1 million tax dollars a day to pay Dave to do a 3-hour show. I wouldn't know what to do with that little money. You know, it's like finding nickels on the street. Running internet on 40-year-old power line is suboptimal. Okay, so I wasn't going to get critical, but I certainly had questions. I got a Cat 7 link running from the switch at the back of this thing that has 18 boxes in it, running to my kitchen studio where I have 3 connections on that. And it's just a length of Cat 7 that I picked up, in my travels and whatever. I didn't really care that it was Cat 7. I just cared that it was 75 feet long. I needed that. Oh, just trying to shoot a DPC watchdog violation, occasional BSOD on Win 11 upgraded PC, proprietary Lenovo Mobo, messy stuff. I know a good place where you might be able to get help, my friend. Hey, nah, I closed that already. Can't put links up. Oh, yeah, right. Ansible is definitely a deployment tool that's addressed in CISA. Water-cooled networks. Arrgh. I'm passing up messages where people are generally talking to each other or not talking to me. Upstairs, top water inlet leak. Yeah, I got one of those. I'm still, one of these days I'll do this on a laptop and take you a tour of the house before they start the reconstruction. I have no room to complain. There are people with no homes in Florida. I got holes in my ceilings and it's warm or cold, but it's interesting that Ursula Le Guin made a lasting impact on the world of IT. That's a sci-fi, right? It really is. Reading questions, tub, not tub. Playbooks, is that? Shame on you, Andre. Glad I didn't read the rest of that. Reading. Advise. Okay, you guys are cocking over this problem. Alex is our Linux pro. Alex is invisible. Somebody chase down Alex. She's been to your house, for goodness sake. Andre, let's get her back in the fold. Miss that woman. Proprietary case and oh, you guys are still doing your thing here. TD Washington, they're practicing for tomorrow's air show. Oh, yeah. So our office is minutes away from Ellington Air Force Base, and the air show is in October down here. And we used to enjoy that. They come in for the week prior and they practice and they would go over our building. And we don't need to go to the air show. We just go up on the roof in the afternoon and watch them practice. That's fun. Getting everything here. You guys all got your own conversation going completely fine. Can use Tulowit to contact an FTL spaceship. Why do I read your stuff out loud? Crypto miners. I don't think I see anything here that's going to, I won't be able to run MSFS. Of course, you have to run Microsoft Flight Simulator. I got the other day at the flea market a pair of wiped out radio controlled airplanes. I don't like the helicopters, and they are unflyable, but all the electronics, all the servos and everything are good. So I've pulled those out and I'm going to make a half-hearted effort to build a fun plane. Since I got 2 planes there, I can do a lot more servos and have a lot more fun. And of course, the camera is going to be Raspberry Pi based. All right, we got to the end of the line here. Kind of chair you sitting in, Dave? No, this is the least comfortable chair in the world, Con. My good chair committed suicide. This chair is killing me. It is killing me to no end. I take 2 aspirin 2 hours before I have to sit in it for 2 hours. And I am on the hunt this weekend for a replacement chair. This is raw junk. When I get up from this chair, I will feel like somebody's been hammering on my tailbone with a bulldozer. Thank you for asking. And thank you for reminding me of my pain. So I'll share whatever I come up with you on the show next week. All right, well, let's wind this thing up and up. Mike show on Monday, regular show. We don't have any guests planned at this moment. Reminder, Steve Nicholson will return when he gets back into his home in Florida and things return somewhat normal. Und with that, what are you doing over here? That's a funny place for that file to be. So as ever and always, my gratitude to Mike Myers, Total Seminars, NCG, and everybody who so generously provides us with time and resources to get together here once a week and talk about these things. My most heartfelt thank, as ever and always, goes to you and everyone who comes here to participate. I have been Dave Rush and will continue to be so. Senior instructor at Total Seminars, resident pie specialist, wishing you a great weekend. Please take care of each other, take serious steps to stay healthy, and if at all possible, call or visit your parents. And never forget, technology is great, but you and I are the greatest resources. Good night. I will pop in on Discord for a couple of minutes after this, and then I am done for the weekend. Until that time, I am out of here.